Hey y'all, it's Todd, and for those of you who go to Bethel South, you may have heard recently Ross from the stage talk about something he's doing this summer.
By the grace of our elders, the trustee elder board, I am going to take a 3-month sabbatical. I'm going to sort of step away from all the responsibilities I have on a week-to-week basis for ministry and refresh and recharge after 20 years of ministry, and looking forward to the next season, this next half of my life and the ministry that God's called me to here.
So Ross talked about taking a sabbatical, and you might be thinking, all right, I kind of understand what that is, but maybe you have some questions. So we thought it'd be a good idea just to talk about it. What is a sabbatical? Why are we doing this? And so we are actually talking with Pastor Ross and Jayson Chandler. So Jayson is one of our trustee elders, and Jayson's actually been a part of this whole process as the elders have thought about this and prayed about it and done the research. He's been there through that whole process and knows really how this all came to be. The second thing is that Jayson, for as long as I've known him, has had a real pastor's heart for our staff. Jayson is one of those guys who's always checking in with the staff. How are you doing? Do you need anything? How can I encourage you? And so that's a real blessing for our church to have an elder who's invested in our staff in that way. So he's the perfect guy to talk about what is this sabbatical. So Jayson, thanks for doing this. First of all, can you tell us basically what we mean when we say sabbatical?
Well, sabbatical is rest first and foremost, but also can be used for personal development, for further study. But rest, one of the key things. I mean, God even rested on the seventh day, and who are we to question that logic? We all need it, and so it's really meant to allow the pastor who's on that sabbatical leave to recoup, refresh, and prepare for more future work. Just like we all take vacations, it's a little bit different, and that's just because of the type of job that they have and what that entails. And the sabbatical just serves that purpose really well versus just a 1 or 2 week vacation like most of us take.
So talk to us about how this all came about. So it's been a lengthy process, probably even further than most of us would imagine. When did this conversation start happening?
Back in 21, the summer of 21, I was preparing to serve as chairman for the trustee board for the fall of 21 into the spring and into the summer of 22. And that was my chairmanship term. And conversations both between Ross and I, and the trustees and I, and trustees and Ross, just continued on and discussing this idea of a sabbatical and how that would benefit Ross. And so we took time to study. We didn't create this on our own. We essentially sought wisdom from other churches who've done the same thing, and we basically took what they had done and made it applicable and specific for Bethel's purposes. And so that process officially began in the 21-22 time frame at my year of being chairman, and we officially made that a policy. It was approved on June 7th of last summer. So it's been in effect for almost 12 months already.
And tell us how it's going to work. I mean, Ross talked about it a little bit, and we saw a little clip of him saying it. But in our plan, what is the staff member supposed to do during that sabbatical?
Well, just like I was saying earlier, it's professional development, rest, study, time with family. So the expectation is that they're going to use this not just to go off and do some other gig for a few months. The expectation is that they use this time to invest in themselves. And we expect to see time of reflection and study in the Word. And I think Ross is even going to do some writing. I'm not sure what all the details are on that, but I'm anxious to hear more about it. But those activities that are going to benefit them in their job when they actually come back. And so part of that is rest. That rest could include taking a trip with the family, or as Ross is going to do, go and stay at a monastery and just be in silence. There's various ways. There's pastors' conferences. There's different programs that pastors can involve themselves in to further their study, their understanding of the word, so that they can be truly a pastor and a shepherd to those of us that are in the church. And so we expect them to invest that time, but it's not going to be that it's all work while they're gone. It's meant to give them rest and refreshment at the same time. So that's the expectation.
So, Ross, you talked about this a little bit from the pulpit, but I am curious as to what your expectations are for these 3 months. I know you've got some stuff planned. I know rest is a big part of it. Do you have any goals going into this, or stuff you want to see happen in your own life? Or are you going in just open to see what God does?
Well, so that's a great question. And it's probably, I probably seesaw back and forth between both of those things. So on the one hand, I have some places that I'm scheduled to be during the sabbatical, on purpose, some places. But the idea is to kind of schedule to be at places, but not scheduled with any responsibilities. And so there are some things I really want to read this summer. There's some stuff I really want to write about this summer. There's some extended time in prayer and Bible reading that I really want to do without the, kind of week to week sermon prep. And then, I usually teach 2 or 3 or 4 times a week in different settings. And so just sort of taking all that responsibility off and all of that. And my expectation or my hope is that I have an opportunity to think creatively and kind of refresh and look forward to the next 20 years of ministry, kind of not a reset so much, but a refresh and to have some space to be able to think about ministry and my calling. And here I am 20 years into ministry, and I'm a different person than when I started. And so I'm more experienced. I have more age. My hair's more gray. I'm moving into a new phase of life with empty nesting, and my oldest daughter's getting married. And so there are lots of things I really want to be thoughtful about and be able to kind of take stock of some wisdom and experience and really let that catapult me forward into this next season of ministry, or the second half of a lifetime of ministry that God's called me to. And so the sabbatical, really, as it turns out, comes at a perfect time and a life phase for me and for Leslie. And so I look forward to that.
I know that you love to preach, and when you do take breaks, I know that you're anxious to get back. Do you think it'll be hard, at least at the beginning, to sort of not have that sermon to preach on Sundays? Or do you think, no, I'm really ready for a break? I'm not going to have that kind of anxiety about not getting to preach.
Oh, I'll probably have a little anxiety. I mean, I like doing it, and it's part of my gifting and my calling, um, and it's so much a part of my routine during the week. And so it, everything about this sabbatical, from just a routine standpoint and a pace of life standpoint, is meant to be disruptive. And so I think that's part of the untangling and unwinding from the kind of week to week, month to month pressure of ministry. And so I've got to have that. And I think, it'll be something that most of the guys I talk to that do a 12-week sabbatical talk about the first 4 weeks as being just
absolutely excruciating from many standpoints. And then you can kind of settle in and, you really kind of meet yourself all over again. So I don't know. I've never done it. I'm looking forward to it. I have some, uh, not trepidation so much as, I'm really curious to see how it turns out.
Jayson, let me ask you this. So, this is a plan we want to enact for our pastors, and I wonder if you could just talk. I mean, you're talking about rest and investing in our pastors in that way. In your opinion, what do you think this does, sort of big picture, for our church? So we've been talking about that it helps the leader. Wonder what your thoughts are on what ends up being the result or the benefit to our campuses, our church as a whole, by doing something like this.
Well, I think one of the first and foremost things that it does is it keeps somebody from burnout. And when anyone's burnt out, and I'm not saying Ross is burnt out, but if you get to that point, you're going to have unhealthy relationships with employees, the staff, may not be as effective in the pulpit, may not be as effective in whatever area of ministry you're in, whether it's visible or not. There's probably some deficiency there. But so that's the first thing. I think overall the benefit, I think it creates kind of a domino effect of benefits from a standpoint of being refreshed. I mean, when we're still, that's when we hear God the most. When we're in the chaos, it's really hard to hear him, not because he's not speaking, it's because we're not listening. And so this gives Ross time to refresh. And Ross has been a huge vision caster for Bethel for years. And so I think it gives them a chance to hear God maybe saying something different or something new or in a new way. And so I think that applies to anyone that's going on the sabbatical. So I think Bethel, the staff, as well as the congregation, the members and regular attendees benefit from that because maybe they're more attuned. Not to say that Ross is not. I just think everybody needs rest, as we talked about earlier. And so I think that as well as if you really want to talk from a business standpoint of retention of employees, that's another thing we saw it as, is this is a benefit to retaining good quality staff. And I say it all the time, we have a deep bench at Bethel when it comes to teaching actual pastors and then those who are members who are either in or outside of the ministry in some form or fashion, but not necessarily on staff at Bethel. And we don't want to lose that. And we want to be good stewards of what God has given us. And I think this is one way that we do that. Those of us who are going to be at the church while they're away are going to miss them, and we're going to lose something there. But I think we're going to gain so many more things from it, both from what happens when they get back, as well as what happens while they're away. And I think we all can be stretched, and there are those who are going to be teaching over the summer who are going to be stretched. So I think this is a positive in so many different ways. I don't think we have any idea how good this is going to be for us in the long run. And I think this is true whether we're talking about Ross as the senior pastor or one of the campus pastors. I think it's the same. Every campus is going to benefit from this. And with Ross, I think Bethel as a whole will benefit from this in a great way.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Jayson, thank you for being a part of this. I know you didn't come up with this by yourself. I know so many of our elders have worked on this and been praying for it, but I'm really thankful that y'all have done this, and I'm looking forward to it. So guys, thanks for doing this, and I'm looking forward to a really exciting sabbatical summer. Thank y'all very much.